What's going on, YouTube? Back with another video. I figured to drop this video. The title of this video is One Day You Here and the Next Day You Gone, man. And what made me think of to drop a title regarding One Day You Here and Next Day You Gone, Lord, may she rest in peace. My sister friend, Shaba Davis, just died. And, it's very touching to hear, mother of two. And, it just, me hearing that she was on life support yesterday, it touched me, because, her kids haven't fully even grown up yet, you know what I mean? And it just, I know how it is to feel and, to take losses and lose loved ones. So, I know that, but I wouldn't know what it feel like to lose a mom, you know what I mean? Because I had my mom throughout my life, so, I can just only imagine, how those kids feel. But it was a touching, situation to hear yesterday. And, it just, to hear she passed today, it put a big, just a big level of, just, I wouldn't say pain, but it touched me, in a way that, man, life's short, and she wasn't even, old, she was young herself. And, it's just crazy me just sitting here thinking, man, one day you here, next day you gone. Appreciate this life. Cherish this life, man. Love your loved ones, you know what I'm saying? And love those who love you, man. Something I noticed, though, me thinking of, her, her death and everything, it's sad that, family members never even met certain family members while they was living, but they only met them at the funeral. Certain family members that, family ain't seen in years, or the person that passed and get a chance to even reach out to see them. And, I was just sitting here thinking to myself, man, that it's sad that it's messed up in our community that way, that people, they get to know people when they're gone, instead of them being here and they reaching out or being there, or, certain family members helping certain family members. And, even, just me looking at the situation, it just made me feel like, wow, life's short. I have to really do what I have to do to take care and handle being a father out here, and, keeping myself healthy on every level, because, they'll say that money is wealth, but really health is wealth. Money can't buy your way into heaven. Money can't make you live this world 1,000 years, 1,000,000 years, whatever, however you may want to address it and put it. When it's your time, and you can't run away from it. But, I do pray that God bless me to leave happy, me to leave with my mission accomplished, for me to be able to establish everything I need to establish so my kids could be straight. But, it just made me feel like, dang, life's short. It's like, we got to love each other, man. Like, we got to love each other. Family need to check up on family, man. All this old punk ass shit with, excuse my language, what a family member did to another family member. Because sometimes I notice that we born into a family, and family just don't like you just because of who your mom associated with, or, what your mom may have done, which is 9 times out of 10 petty, and is years longer, you know what I'm saying, for you to not have forgiveness in your heart. Like, I feel like these families, us as a whole, we should be together as a whole. It's crazy that I see in black families that we only gather when it's a funeral. I can't even say a wedding, because, shoot, now weddings are short. You know what I'm saying? I feel when great grandma left the picture, just everything went down here. Because I remember when my great grandma was living, If a family member had a problem with a family member, she'll get those two in the same room, the same house, and curse them out and make them talk and address their problems and squash it. But it's like now, it's not no structure. It's young grandmothers now. Social media feel like people feeling like they doing their part by reaching out on social media. It's not, physically, or, having people physically, or, come check out on, come check on their, excuse me, come check on their family. It make people not even, feel like coming to take a trip to see their family not worth it. You know what I'm saying? Forget the phones and the social media. It's like phones and social media, man, made it to a point people feel like they're doing their part by reaching out from a distance, but it takes bonding action. You know what I'm saying? You can call and text and all that stuff, but that doesn't matter. Bonding, face-to-face action, showing up, that's what matters. You know what I'm saying? Forget these phones and everything, man, and us as a whole, we gotta, come together. Like, it's just sad that, life's so short the way it is, and it's people dying young and old, but at the same time, to, have us as a whole come together as a whole, who wouldn't love to see that? Certain family members, they don't want to see it or don't care to see it. And of course, us and families have our own family that we have to work on, through our households. But, what about us as a whole? Everybody reaching out, cousins, talking to cousins, and it be petty mess, that don't make sense. Like, the worst thing to do is lose your family member knowing that you didn't even get a chance to connect and bond with them. I don't see why families feel in need, and what's so crazy, family members will leave that funeral and still be on the same thing, go years without contacting, go days without contacting, months without contacting. And, it's like, for the amount of time they'll reach out, but after a while, you know what I'm saying, they'll stop reaching out. And it's just, a lot of people let this worldly stuff get in the way of their life, man, when that in actuality, spirituality matters. So many people get caught up in the world to a point it separates them from bonding as a whole, like they should bond. But, it's sad just to see people from family members, other family members, see other family members die, and that's the way they pay their visit, with visiting them, seeing them in the casket and seeing them dead, and it's just a shame. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not even gonna lie, I come from a broken family, on, both sides, you know what I'm saying? Actually, I, had close, to be honest, my closest family members is dead. You know what I mean? Like, even some of my closest friends is dead. And it's crazy, I would have thought that it would have made our connection more stronger to come together and stick together and realize that this life's short, and we have to, be there for each other. But in actuality, I was hoping and just hoping and waiting, you know what I'm saying, for something that wasn't going to happen or didn't happen. And, it's crazy that life just so short though, man. Like, it's crazy, it's short, and we got to appreciate this, man. We got to appreciate everything about this, love our kids, you know what I'm saying? Love our family, spread love. And, that's something I want to build within my kids, breaking generational curses. So many people haven't broken those generational curses. And, they had this mindset because of such and such had this mindset. And such told me this, told me that, which in actuality, that shit don't mean nothing. You know what I mean? Not a damn thing. And I thought of this yesterday too, because I was going to drop a video yesterday, but I ended up, you know what I'm saying, having other things get in the way yesterday. But I noticed why people is not, nobody don't communicate anymore because everybody got their head in the phone. Where everybody's seeking knowledge from is the cell phone devices, the cellular devices. That's why there's a lot of antisocial going on. That's why there's a lot of people not speaking. That's why there's a lot of people not, cordial and nice anymore. You know what I'm saying? Because they have their intention wrapped into their cell phones. And a lot of people, speak through the cell phones. Even us recording videos, we speak through the cell phone, but we actually need to speak to each other. We need to come together as a whole and speak to each other like we speak into these devices and sync the knowledge that we think are in these devices, but in actuality is pushing us further away to communicate as a whole, communicate and keep the positivity going. I ain't never knew that manners wouldn't even matter no more. People don't even say thank you no more. People don't open the door for people no more. Like, this way of living, you know what I'm saying? People have been programmed through these cellular devices, and it makes them think that that's the way of life. And in spirituality, it's not like that. We live in a world where they wouldn't tell you consequences come behind doing wrong or doing bad things. They don't tell you to tap in spiritually. They just drop more TV shows, more social media platforms, more music. And it's like people not even, tapping into things spiritually or tapping into the spiritual side of life. But, to make a long story short, or not to make a long statement short, because it's not a story, but statement. To make a long statement short, man, we got to be there for each other, man. We got to love one another, man. We got to hold our people tight, man. We got to love on our people, man. Because, you know what I'm saying, that's what lasts forever. You break the generational curse that way, man, and it starts within you, you know what I mean, to build this family on us. We go through enough as a whole as it is, just being our color. And it's like, we let these other races, you know what I'm saying, program us to think a way about our race that's not even real. You know what I mean? Like, don't nobody hate our race more than we hate our own race. Yeah, we have racism going on, but shit, it's easier for them to just sit back and watch us do the job towards each other, or against each other. They making money off of us, off of our negativity. You know what I'm saying? They making money off our what we're doing as negative. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's just sad that a lot of people don't want to wake up and understand, man. Like, we have to naturally live the way God would want us to live, man. And you wonder why God further away from certain things we involved in, just because, we are lost as a whole. We're not spiritually connected to him. We're not, trying to become spiritually connected to him to make ourselves better people. But, I'm not going to drop this video and make this video long, but I'm going to keep dropping more content, man. Y'all show the page some love, like, comment, subscribe, man. I'm going to get better and better with speaking on camera because I actually a man with a lot of wisdom. People have always told me throughout my life I should be a pastor, because of all the wisdom I have. But, I installed this myself into me, you know what I mean? But, it came from the Most High, though, It came from the Most High, and once it came from the Most High, that's when I installed it in me. And, it's just a blessing to be a person that want to, be righteous and be spiritually and be real. You know what I mean? I done been through a lot, but I keep going, you know what I mean? With God giving me that spirit. And, at times we feel like we have to fight our battles. We don't even have to fight our battles. God will fight our battles for us. Don't have to fight your battles, man. So many people fight so much in his life to a point they die or they, kill themselves trying to fight. Not even understand you can just step back and let that man fight for you. But you know what I'm saying? You keep it pushing and keep it going. But, I ain't gonna make the video long. I hope you all have a blessed one. Peace.